about that in my mind. The infrastructure was there, the medical science was there. I have reason to believe that there was blood doping going on. I mean, as it turns out now, we were right. But in those days we were unsure, but we were sure that something wasn't quite right.
So do you feel bitter about Viren? I mean,
no,
he was one of the blood dopers?
I think I was angry at the fact that we all didn't have the opportunity to make a decision whether we would or we wouldn't. Some athletes had the opportunity and some didn't, and I didn't like that. That was unfair. Give me the chance to say yes or no. And then I asked myself, well, if I was given the chance, would I take it? And I'd say no. But at least it was my decision to say no.
Okay, we'll flick forward to the 1978 Commonwealth Games in Edmonton. A bit of a disaster really for you, Rod.
Another one.
The shoot, yeah, but very unlucky. It was very not your making at all.
Yeah.
Maybe you could just briefly outline what happened that day, the 5,000 metre final.
It's interesting because, you know, here we had come through to a high point in 72 and then 74, but I was able to stop that downward spiral because 74 I knew I justified. But then, of course, I went down into 76, which was quite devastating, and really to spend the whole of 77. See, the only thing that really, when I had to question myself, you know, what am I about? Who am I? What am I doing? And, you know, real champions, at the lowest point of their lives are the people who pick themselves up and continue to compete. They are the champions of this world. And I realized that that's what I had to be. I had to overcome this. I had to drag myself out. I didn't have psychologists and people to help. I had to do this myself. No support, except from the love of my family, which was the most important thing, of course. But I was able to get up, and so by 78, I was running well again. I was right back up, running with the best. Go to Edmonton, Commonwealth Games. Probably capable. I don't think to beat Henry Rono was on the cards, but I was going to give him a hell of a fright.
But you worked out a way where you might beat him.
I believed that it was going to be one of the closest races Henry had ever had. I was in that kind of shape. Came in from the warm-up, put my bag, which had specially made shoes in it, and my running singlet. I never put my running singlet on right until before the actual game, you know, before we were called to the marks. So it was this thing, you know, Peter Blake has red socks, Rod Dixon does this. And I went to get my bag where I'd left it, and it was gone. So I asked a couple of the athletes, have you seen my black bag? It's quite obvious. It's a black bag with a silver fern on it. And they hadn't. And I thought, well, maybe someone's just put it in the Coke machine or something. I looked everywhere, and I turned every nook and corner upside down. There was nowhere to be found. So I asked one of the officials, you're going to have to help me here. I've lost a bag. Has somebody removed a bag from here? And they assured me nobody would have done that. By this time, we were being called to the start line. And I went over to one of the officials and I said, look, my bag has been stolen. I haven't got a shirt. I haven't got my running shoes. I haven't got anything. And he said, well, they can go out. Let's see what we can do for you. So, of course, by this
was inside the stadium, was it?
Inside, under the final holding area.
Because you talked to the other athletes? Did you to Foster?
Yes. In fact, I did ask Brendan. And Mike McLeod.
You thought they might have taken it as a practical joke?
Yeah, I thought so, yeah. No. I mean, it was obvious from the reaction that, come on, Rod, you know, we've got to race into them. We don't play games now. And so, of course, Ash Jelly came down, Les Mills came down, everybody was now trying to find this bag. And we asked, can you give us some more time, So then the announcement went out, can somebody with a size 9.5 shoe bring it down for Dixon? A pair of long jump spikes turned up. A pair of sprinters spikes turned up. So with the sprinters, at least it was better than a long jump or a high jump shoe with a heel spike. But it had a lot of, in those days, Adidas made a shoe with like a catapult effect, so it was sort of built up at the front, so we had to take all those off. The shoe had a negative heel, which was not what I was used to. Anyway, they said the race is going to start in 5 minutes with or without you. So I put the shoes on.
And what was your state of mind at the stage?
Oh, totally. Devastated. Yeah, gone. I'd lost it. I wasn't good.
Even if they'd come up with your shoes at this stage, you'd have been struggling.
I think I tell you what. If I think that I turned up with my shoes, I think they would have turned it around. Yeah, I could have turned that negative into a positive. But at that stage, I had too many minuses, too many negatives, and went to the start line. Pretty fired up, very angry, but you see, after 3 laps, that burns off, and so you're left with this gut feeling, and you're running on your gut, and of course, I just went from bad to worse. I really did. I just felt shattered. But you see, interesting enough, I came back a day later and qualified the 1500 with 3:39. So
that bag, did it ever turn up?
The bag did. But none of the contents. The bag was found over the back of the warm-up stadium, so it had been stolen. There's no doubt about that. So I think also too, I went on to Europe and ran 13:19 and 13:18, and I beat all the British Commonwealth runners. I beat all the medalists except Henry. I couldn't find Henry later in that season, but I beat Marty LaCour, Jos Hermans, all those guys. I mean, I won the Van Damme meeting. I mean, so that was obvious to me that I was in the shape. So I went on and I ran the fastest 2-mile time, the fastest 3,000 metre time for the world that year. So I knew I was in condition. So I was able to justify it all. It was bad luck. Just another chapter in the book.
The 1980 boycott of Moscow, the Olympics, did that impact much on you, Rod?
Totally. The record books show that I was so angry, I announced that I was withdrawing from the team. I was so angry that they were playing around with us, and this is the IOC, our government, our athletic association. They were playing around with us. They knew, but they didn't tell the athletes. We, the athletes, continued to train believing there was still an Olympics on for us. I was told by the TAC, the American Athletics Congress, the AAU in fact, that New Zealand were boycotting 3 weeks before Lance Cross announced it. And I challenged, in those days, the New Zealand Amateur Athletic Association, the NZ3As, I challenged them to come clean, tell us what is going on. I said, you know, we individual athletes have an ability to go on to Europe and compete and do things. But I said, you know, hockey players are assembling in Auckland, rowers are leaving their jobs, team sports are starting to gather and plan for the... I said, new people know we're not going. So I withdrew, and of course, a lot of controversy. You know, Dixon's a standalone sort of guy.
But it wasn't a withdrawal where you supported the boycott?
No. The interference of our government in making a decision for us. We should have been allowed to make the decision. And quite frankly, there's nothing that I could do with the invasion of Afghanistan. There's nothing that I could do. I was going to go to the Olympics, and I was going to do what I'm good at, and what was rightfully what I trained for. But interestingly enough, just on 2 weeks later, Rebecca Perrott was the next person to pull out, and then we found out the Sports Foundation didn't support. And then the old domino effect, the cookie started to crumble. And next thing, we weren't going. But to see Ian Ferguson and the canoeing, they said, we're going. So I called up the athlete. I said, why can't we go? We have made a decision for you. So that really angered me. The fact that Muldoon and Lance Cross and the NZ3As had decided we weren't going. And I said, how dare you? So I went over and said, I'm going to be in charge of my destiny. I'm going to control my destiny from this point on. I'm going to go and I'm going to try this road racing in the United States.
That was what part of what led to that, was it?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So you had a very successful road racing career, Rob, but I suppose for New Zealanders back here, the big thing was winning that New York Marathon in '83. How big was that?
Lessons learned, experience from all the previous years, but certainly 76 gave me something as I prepared for 83. The lessons I'd learned from 1976 were the main titles of each chapter that I had to go through for that build-up. I set myself in June of 1983 to 23rd of October 1983 is that window when I was going to be, this time, the best prepared, the best disciplined, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, that I'd ever been in my life. And I set a plan which I stayed with. And every day was a plan. Almost every minute I knew what I was doing. I had my masseurs, I had my physical therapy, I had my training, I had my downtime, I had everything organized.
And you ran very well on
I
the
ran,
day?
yeah.
But it was a close race.
It was a very, very close race, extremely close. And Jeff Smith and I share something even today that I haven't really shared with any other runner. And that was something that we went through together for 26 miles, 385 yards, 2 hours and 9 minutes together. I mean, I only beat him by 8 seconds. I passed him exactly on the 26-mile mark. And
where does that New York Marathon victory rate? Does that rate as high as the Olympic bronze?
It's in a different category. It's in a different thing. See, it was in '72. I was just naturally gifted. It was an experience. It was, as we talked about, Wonderland. In 1983, I knew exactly what I was doing. I had everything planned and I had everything in place. And it's the old thing, the man with the best plans wins. And I think I had the best plan to win that event. I went into territory I'd never been in before.
But what I mean, Rod, is when it comes, you only need 5 words for your citation. Is it going to be Olympic bronze medalist or New York Marathon winner? What is the thing that, as you lie in bed, this is the thing I'm most proud of that I did in running?
That I've loved, Rod Dixon, the man who loved what he does.
Yeah.
Expression is my running. That, yeah, all those other things, yeah. I think when people ask me, would you have traded what you've done in your sport for an Olympic gold medal? And I said, you're telling me to give up 25 years of being an international athlete for 1 gold medal? No way. No way.
How about 1984 at the Olympics? Were you 10th in the marathon? Were you pleased with that overall?
Let's put it in this way. I was 2.9% off my best performance, which was the New York winning performance. 2.9%. And yet people didn't see me in the stadium when the guy was finishing. They said Dixon's failed. But I didn't. I actually ran within 5%. Now, anybody who even performs within 10% of their best has got to be performing to their best. Within 10%. That's good enough. I performed within 2.9%. And yet people said I'd failed.
Because you'd won the New York Marathon, Rod, I think.
Yeah. I had run the best race that I could. I knew when I finished, I was still standing, I was still able to run up the stand. I think I even had a beer within about 10 minutes. I mean, it just didn't happen for me. I just didn't fire when I needed to, and I just carried on running, and I just couldn't lift myself above it. And yet, when I look back, you know, really, I was about 2 months under prepared. What had happened of 1983, of course, is you get on this roller coaster, celebrity roller coaster, the euphoria, and I mean, Pan Am named a 747 jet after me. So of course, I had unlimited air travel. Where I have to see these countries. So I went to Rio, I went to Zurich, I flew all over the world. I mean, it took me all my effort to get home by Christmas. Then there was the Christmas round of festivities in New Zealand and all the backslapping and all the talks and everything else. I didn't get down to train till February. Suddenly, everybody went home, did all their things. Rod, you got to get your tail into gear here. And I knew that I needed 18 weeks, and 18 weeks was going to take me past the Olympic. And they're not going to change the Olympic start time. So and then of course I was going to move to California from Pennsylvania to be more acclimatized, and I ran out of time there, so I went back to Pennsylvania. At least it worked for me. But coming in, I came in late too. I didn't come in because I knew that I was fighting against time. Things were starting to come right, but I just wasn't there. The icing wasn't on the cake.
Besides these various games, Rod, you had this incredibly long career, very long cross-country career. What made you such a good cross-country runner?
I loved doing it. My heart was there. People say, what is it about the Africans? What is it about? It's, genetics has a lot to do with it. I mean, I come from pretty good stock. I mean, I think most New Zealanders do. I mean, our foreparents who got on a sailing ship back in those days and came all this way and pioneered this country were kind of good stock. So I come from good stock, determined, disciplined.
But you were a better cross-country runner than our good cross-country runners, Rod. Were you better on the hills?
I was the best cross-country runner in New Zealand from 1973 to 1979, by far.
What put you ahead of them? The hills, or?
Yes, I was a very, very strong runner, extremely strong runner, but it was the Kerry Williams thing. It was the John Dixon influence. I mean, my brother, if I had a list of 10 of the toughest runners I've ever run against, my brother would be in the top 3. He had incredible discipline, strength, and determination. And that's really what makes a great cross-country runner. Sadly, cross-country is not run like it used to be. Now it's a glorified track race. So it's the speedmen that win. I'd dearly love to get back the mud and the fences and the ditches and the rivers and things. This is running cross-country, and that's what I'd love to do.
Are you proud that you were part of that era in the 1970s with Walker and Quacks and